Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. You can also catch us streaming on WNRI.com, so you can listen to us anywhere, not only in Rhode Island, but around the world. I'm Joe, I'm your host, and I work at a company called Remax Preferred, and I help buyers and sellers of residential and commercial real estate in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. This is we're completing our 11th year on the air here at WNRI, which it seems like it has not been anywhere near that long. I want to thank all of my regular listeners. Every week it seems like I bump into someone at the hardware store or CVS who recognizes my voice. But it's great. I love doing what I do, and I love being able to share the studio, share the microphone with other real estate professionals and local businesses, and sometimes even nonprofits. And tonight we're going to talk about music and mortgages. Okay, so we have a very special evening for you. And without further ado, I want to introduce from the Rhode Island Civic, Chorale, and Orchestra, Rebecca Leuchak. Hello, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks very much for inviting me, Joe. It's really a pleasure to share the excitement I have about our upcoming performances of the Rhode Island Civic, Chorale, and Orchestra. We're thrilled to be performing Handel's great work, The Messiah, this
Excellent.
season.
Beautiful piece.
It's a season staple. We perform it every other year, and it's a Baroque work that has been interpreted in many different ways. So every time you hear it, it's unique.
Mm-hmm.
And our conductor, Joshua Rhoda, is always working differently with us each time, and that's what makes it exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So tell us, for our listeners, and tell them a little bit about Rhode Island Civic, Chorale, and Orchestra. And I know you've been around a long time, and then you have the youth orchestra as well, and the educational thing. So if you could just share a little bit about the history and offerings.
We're a group of about 100 strong of singers, and we invite anyone who has a passion for singing, loves to perform. We're accompanied by an orchestra of young and very talented musicians. It's an incredible live experience to come to our performances, and we began in 1957, so we've been around for more than a century, more than a half century.
Right, yes.
And the collegiate vocal competition, that's what it's called. The collegiate vocal competition is our opportunity to celebrate young artists at the beginning of their careers. This is an opportunity each spring, a competition that invites music students, either undergraduate or graduate, who are studying in New England, to come and try out to be our soloists for the following season. So for this Messiah concert, which is coming up, we have 5 wonderful singers, young, brilliant voices who will be performing with us in the roles that Handel wrote. So, that's what's coming up.
Great. Now, so typically what venues do you perform at?
Well, the exciting thing is that for your listeners who are nearby, we will be on December 8th in the afternoon at St. James Church in Manville.
Oh, wonderful. Yep.
And that's at 38 Division Street, Manville.
Yep.
And all are welcome. Tickets are $30 for an adult, $25 for seniors, and $10 for students.
Great.
The day before, on Saturday evening at 7 p.m., we will be at the Church of St. Sebastian's on Cole Avenue in Providence.
Okay, yep.
So it's 67 Cole Avenue. So you have 2 opportunities to hear us.
Yep.
But we already have done a performance. Saturday, we were on Block Island.
Oh, wonderful.
And we had an incredible experience. Some of us.
Great weather.
Oh my gosh, it was glorious.
Yeah.
And some of us there for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And on the ferry back, we had a flash mob rendition.
Oh, neat.
The Hallelujah chorus from
the
Messiah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it was
very
really
good.
fun.
Folks, I just wanted to remind you, you are listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, and tonight is a night of music and mortgages. And we're talking about music. We have Rebecca Leuchak from the Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra. And they are going to be, believe it or not, we are fortunate that Northern Rhode Island has an opportunity to see and hear them at St. James Church in Manville on December 8th at, want to say it again?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, December 8th at 3 o'clock. So great opportunity to hear some beautiful music, some wonderful voices. And so there are going to be, even at St. James, there are going to be, you're 100 strong at that venue as well. Thanks.
100 singers and a whole group of, an orchestra, a full orchestra, and our 5 soloists. So it's really a spectacular event. Follow us on Facebook, Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra, and also
Excellent.
check out more information on our website, which is ricco.org. We'd love to have you join us. And if you're interested in singing, we're always looking for new members.
Very good. Everybody, so many people like to sing in the car and sing in the,
In the
shower.
shower.
Maybe you have some talent that you're unaware of, and what a great way to find out. You can check them out at their website, ricco.org, or find them on Facebook as well. Everything is on social media now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also on Instagram, but I can't remember
Okay.
the
handle, yeah.
handle.
Yep. So, folks, this is just great because, we're always talking about real estate and the real estate business, and occasionally I try to have on some local nonprofit organizations, or maybe something that's, more cultural, because we have a lot to offer here in Northern Rhode Island besides helping people buy and sell homes. And, Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra is a fantastic performance group. They're obviously a good size, 100 vocalists, and then they have a full orchestra.
And we're all volunteers. We do it for the love of it.
Exactly. That's wonderful, too. So something I didn't tell you, but I grew up in the music business myself, yes. Oh. And so there used to be some kind of, we would interface. My family owned Luca Music and Avery Piano. So we, occasionally renting pianos or things of that nature.
We've used Avery pianos for our performances.
Yep,
you bet.
exactly.
That's
so
great.
I can remember that when I was a kid. I'm obviously no longer involved in the business, but so it's a kind of a soft spot in my heart for, the Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra, the Philharmonic, everything.
Yeah,
so.
we have, I'm really focusing on the Messiah for this season, right? But we do have 2 performances in the new year. One of them will be based on contemporary composers, which is really
neat.
exciting.
So contemporary like Copeland or which?
Well, some other very well-known choral composers. Okay. And I really urge people to go to the website and find out more about it, because these are pieces, our conductor is particularly skilled at putting together programs that are absolutely transporting. They just
Wonderful.
Take you to a wonderful place.
Yep.
So definitely check out our spring season as well.
Good. And folks, that's RICCO.org is the website. You can check it out, see what they're going to be, where and what they are going to be performing at their next appointment or their schedule. And then also, if you think you'd like to see if you have a really good singing voice, you can reach out to them as well.
And contact us at info@ricco.org.
Excellent. So, folks, again, if you have any questions, if they wanted to call, is there a number they could call? Anyone, if they have questions?
No, I don't have the number here. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. You know what, folks?
website.
You can check it out on the website, or you can always call me and I will direct you there, 401-409-5030. But the website has all of the information that you are going to need. Rebecca, is there anything else we want to talk about that maybe we didn't glean or we didn't touch on yet?
Well, I just think it's really important to support live arts.
Yep.
Come, support artists, support your neighbors. These are people from, as I said, Rhode Island and southern Massachusetts who love music. And we have a brilliant conductor and a really great assistant conductor, accompanist named Nick Rocha. And all together, we make an incredible experience.
Excellent, excellent. I've heard very good things. I haven't been to any performances recently, but I think I'm definitely going to try and get into the one at St. James Church
Good.
in Manville.
I'll get you some tickets.
Excellent. So, folks, again, if you want to learn more about Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra, RICCO.org, check them out. You can go to the performance. You'll see Rebecca performing with about 99 other vocalists and a full orchestra. Folks, that's really powerful. Some talented musicians. I want to thank Rebecca for coming in to share some time with us. You'll have to come back in the new year before your next set of performance dates.
Absolutely. So glad to be with you.
My pleasure. Okay,
Thank you.
Rebecca, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, folks, so you are listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 AM, and we are on WNRI.com streaming live for the whole hour. I want to do a quick shout out to thank our sponsors. Of course, we have Compass Title and Escrow. Anthony Betancourt and his team at Compass Title and Escrow do a great job taking care of buyers and sellers, helping them have a smooth real estate transaction. You know, real estate is buying a home, selling a home is one of the largest financial transactions that you're going to make in your life. And working with a great group of paralegals and attorneys and notaries at Compass Title and Escrow is a fantastic way to make sure everything goes smoothly. Also, G Metz Moving and Storage. You know, the best move you'll ever make is working with G Metz Moving and Storage, whether you're moving furniture from one side of the house to the other, removing furniture so you can have work done in the house, or you're moving your entire household from Woonsocket to Westerly or Rhode Island to Georgia. G Metz Moving and Storage can help you out. Check them out at gmetzmoving.com. That's G as in George, M as in Michael, E as in Edward, T as in Tom, Z as in Zebra, moving.com. Please check them out. And of course, Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster. He is licensed by the state of Rhode Island. And he works for the property owner, not the insurance company. That's what a public insurance adjuster does. If you have a claim or think you have a claim on your homeowner's insurance, give Vern a call. He's a local guy, 484-300-8495. Again, 484-300-8495. Vern Rainville, public insurance adjuster, will do a great job taking care of you. Now we are here with our second guest, our special guest, my friend and mortgage loan officer with a great team extraordinaire from Semper Home Loans, Dan Giroux. Dan, welcome to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show.
Joe, thank you for having me. You know,
My
it was a
pleasure,
lot of
my
traffic
pleasure.
getting here, but I'm excited I made it.
Yep, exactly. You know, thank you very much for, coming to the show. You know, Dan and I, we've been working together for a few months now, and he has a fantastic team. I've been really impressed with with Dan and Mike and Liz, and they're very tight, and it's good for me as a realtor, because if I have, my buyers and I go to hand them off, or whether to find out if they can become a buyer or not, they have their systems in place, and if you have someone that's not quite ready yet, they can help. What I like is rehabilitate them, prepare them, so they will qualify for a mortgage at some point. Dan, talk a little bit about, I guess, maybe your background, because you weren't born a loan officer.
I think I was born a loan officer.
You've been in it a long time, but
24 years, going strong. I think I may have been born for this. Mine was accidental.
Yep.
I was in the military. I was active duty in the Army. Left when I was 17, and I got in an accident in Korea, and I knew I wasn't going to stay in the military. I got out and had some back problems, and doctor said, "Hey, you can work 20 hours a week with a pillow behind you." Well, I found a telemarketing job somewhere, and it happened to be a mortgage company. And apparently I was good at it.
Yep.
And the owner saw that, and he gave me an opportunity, put me in a training class. There was a guy by the name of Dale DeJoy from Mortgage Pros.
Oh my gosh, I remember Dale.
Yeah,
okay,
well, you mentioned Luca music too. I think I got my first trumpet. My parents owned Furniture 44 on 1895 Smith Street.
Oh wow, okay.
So my first trumpet was from Luca. They didn't appreciate that though. I think they still mad at you.
Right.
Excuse me. But I just kind of got good at it, and as time went on, I grew into the business, and then I owned my own company for a while. We sold that company. It's been about 7 years now.
Yep.
I settled into where I am. And as far as the team goes, I was part of a really big team. And family became a priority. Needing to attend to family became a big thing, and I decided to step down and go with the smaller team. I like the personal approach. I don't send spam mail to my clients.
Right.
I don't send them a cheesy email on their birthday or loan anniversary saying, happy loan anniversary.
Right.
Not that I don't care,
Mhm.
but they don't want that.
Right.
They don't need that.
Mhm.
What I do is, when they need me, they call me.
Yeah.
And that's the whole premise of my team, is people that are close-knit.
Yep.
Michael's family becomes my family.
Right.
Liz's problems become my problems.
Mhm.
My main assistant, Sean Bartlett, his family is my family. My
Right.
family, we care.
Mhm.
And I think that shows to a certain group.
Yep.
Not everybody.
Right.
Some people want a puppy mill. I
Right.
get it.
Yeah.
They want to drive through, order a number one, have it put in a bag and come out.
Yeah.
Some people want that personal approach. I call it puppy mill
Mhm.
versus a breeder.
Yeah.
Right? A breeder doesn't have to sell 300 dogs a year.
Mhm.
People come to them because they're in high demand.
Yeah.
And that's what my team is trying to do. We want to, and thank you for the compliments of that. It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because we're building that team. Although I've been in the business for 24 years, and the people that I bring in, this concept of not having 30 people that reported to me and only having 2 or 3,
Mhm.
and going from trying to produce a lot of volume to
Yep.
no, we want to work with select people. We tend to gravitate towards family people,
Right.
investors. That's
Mhm.
me. With my mind, you've met me. It's
Yeah.
It's always going.
Yeah.
So investors with long-term growth. I
Right.
found that my clientele has turned into these larger people that have portfolios or
Mhm.
want to start a portfolio.
Yep.
Or maybe they own an 8-unit
Mhm.
in Fall River, and they don't understand that they can put this into an LLC. They can put their children on the LLC. They can
Mhm.
put, I like to teach these things.
Yes, this I want to point, because we have a lot of multifamilies here in Woonsocket, and there are a lot of small, air quotes, investors who are, they may own 1-3 family, and they may be thinking about moving up to a 4, 5, 6 unit, or buying another 3 family, and that's something, that type of advice, counseling, education, that could really be helpful, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And Dan is certainly willing to help give you guidance if you're ready to receive it, because Dan's business, it's not, as I call them, transactional. I have some colleagues, they're very transactional. They buy their leads, they get them, and then they process them, get to the closing, move on, find someone else. My business is built, it's a relationship business. So I have my buyers and my sellers, and they're like family. I protect them, I look out for them. It's because I want them to be very impressed with the value that I add to the transaction, so they will refer business to me. And I do get quite a few referrals from past clients, friends, family, and then other professionals. So I have realtors in other parts of New England and the country referring people to me, and I also have attorneys who refer clients to me as well. So I'm very proud of that. I've been building my brand for over 10 years, and that's something I value very highly, and that's why I always try to go the extra yard so that my clients have a smooth and as stress-free as possible transaction. Okay, and I've seen a lot of the same traits with Dan and his team. And Dan, so you're with Semper Home Loans.
Correct.
And you guys have a great office in Providence.
Amazing
on
office.
DuPont Drive. I, in a previous life, worked at what was then Fleet Bank in their specialized corporate services division, and we were also on DuPont Drive, right down the street from you. So I know the area well. It's very great highway access. But folks, if you don't want to make the trek into Providence, Dan and his team, they're tech savvy. They have tools. They have tools available for you, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Nowadays, everything is, and to back up for a second, I miss the old days, Joe.
Right.
When I owned my company and we had 30-plus people, it was if the client lived in Rhode Island, you were driving to the client, sitting down at their kitchen table, or they were coming to you and you were going over each page, reviewing it. That's how I was taught in the business. Now, it's an email gets sent out, they click on it, they verify it, they scan their eyeball, they put in the last, all the information they have to so it's secure, and then it's click, click, click.
Yeah.
That's great for the people that want that today. Everything seems to be instant gratification. Where I don't like it is I think there becomes a lot of misinformation, miscommunication.
Right. Yeah.
Most people aren't reading them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's reviewing them. And granted, everything is very streamlined.
Yeah.
The government has control of this business, but I just think I miss the old days.
Yeah.
I miss the old days for sure. But we do have systems in place. I've never been a big tech guy. You know,
Yeah.
I'm 45 years old at this point, so
Mhm.
you know, Atari was my thing, and
Yep.
Nintendo. I understand my iPhone. I do email. I
Yeah.
text. I know how to do it all, but I have a team in place
Mhm.
that again who knows how to do those things much better than I do.
Mhm.
So when somebody calls me and says, "Hey Dan, I have a question about these disclosures, and I'm trying to upload something, and I don't," I say, "Call Sean."
Yep.
When they say, "Dan, I have a question about the numbers or a future plan or how do I save more money," that's me.
Mhm.
I'm the plan put it together. Disclosure process, very simple. It's sending it out to you.
Yep.
You're clicking on it. You're putting your name. And they've made everything so fast these
Mhm.
days. But again, I think you're like me. I miss the old days of the personal approach.
Yeah, I think COVID. I think really kind of brought that kind of really extinguished the old way of doing things because, you couldn't. They discouraged you from people were catching COVID from paper, and never mind you had to wear a mask and do virtual showings, and so it really forced us. And if it weren't for COVID, the QR code would be a relic. But since COVID, everybody uses QR codes now, and all kinds of different businesses.
I think, Joe, on that side, I think security too
Mhm.
became a big thing because I think about it when you're taking an application on somebody in the old days, you're writing down their social security number, their date of birth, you're putting it on
Right.
a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Now everything's so encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting in people are obviously giant corporations have information taken.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like about being at Semper so much is our cybersecurity.
Mhm.
We take it very serious.
Yep.
Everything's encrypted. I feel more comfortable telling my clients go on to applydaniel.com and fill
Right.
it out because I don't want to write your social security number down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want that information. What if that piece of paper, unless I'm bringing it to a burn bin like the military burn
Right.
bin, I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah,
So
yep.
technology is nice.
Yeah, excellent. So now, I like to look at the headlines and see what's going on. So, and every week I check out Mortgage News Daily because it's an arbitrary site for what mortgage rates are doing. And so the 30-year fixed on Mortgage News Daily is 7.04, which is down 0.04% from yesterday. The FHA 6.38, which is down 0.02. And the VA, the 30-year VA 6.4, which is also down 0.02% from yesterday. Now, we were talking before the show about how, the Fed does what the Fed does. If they're raising rates or lowering rates, and there is not necessarily a corresponding response with mortgage rates. So just because the Fed raises rates doesn't mean mortgage rates are going to go up, and just because they lower rates doesn't mean mortgage rates will go down. And many times they lower the rates and mortgage rates will increase or stay flat. Let's talk a little bit about that. Professional in the business, and you're a numbers guy. Share that information and your take on that with our listeners.
I've watched it for years. Excuse me. And every time the Feds do lower rates,
Mm-hmm.
the phones, they blow up.
Yeah.
Everybody's going, oh, the rates. I remember when the Feds kept lowering rates during COVID, and people thought they were going to get a 0% interest rate.
Right.
It came close, but it
Yeah.
wasn't there. But I also think the supply and demand factor comes into play.
Mhm.
And I see it play out. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But what I've seen for 24 years, and I'm a very observant person, as
Mhm.
you know, is every time the Feds lower it down, those phones will blow up, or they raise
Yep.
them, the phones will blow up, because people, the general mass,
Mhm.
just hear they went down, and they're on the phone.
Yeah.
And that's where you get into the big, giant companies, right?
Mhm.
They have desks lined up with
Yeah.
salespeople, right,
Yep.
there to sell them on it. After a while, they realize that the demand is so high that they
Mhm.
don't have the ability to take on that demand, and I see rates tick up.
Yep.
If you go back 4 weeks ago, one of my best friend's sons called me and said, Dan, can you do a refinance? This is a personal friend, it's my
Mhm.
best friend, it's his son, he's buying a house. I said, sure, and we talked about a rate. He said, I think they're gonna go lower. I couldn't get him that rate today if I
Mhm.
tried.
Yeah.
It just doesn't exist.
Right.
It went up that fast, but there was that small window.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And
we'll
I
see it
think,
again.
excuse me for interrupting, but I think a lot of that has to do because sometimes it's almost like a Zen thing. Like it's like there's no data that's saying I think rates are going to go up for a couple of days or come down, but sometimes you just get that feeling, just like your thumb's on the pulse of the market, and let's just wait another day and see what happens. And sure as heck, that's what happens.
And you have to trust your advisor as well.
Right.
If you told me, hey, Dan, I know you love this house, but next year I think you're going to be able to buy this house out of foreclosure,
Right. Yeah.
then maybe I should listen.
Yeah.
If we had given people that advice 2 years ago, 3
Mhm.
years ago, they would all say we were crazy and we
Right.
gave them the wrong advice.
Yeah.
But in 2007, when people gave that advice, and all of a sudden in 2008 their house was worth half,
Yeah.
it was, it was the right advice at that point. So
Exactly.
you don't know. Nobody has the crystal ball.
Nobody, exactly. If we had a crystal ball, we would not be doing what we're doing. We'd be millionaires by just predicting the future.
That's right.
You know. So, what do you think about because one of the things that you're a specialist at is you're very talented at challenging loans. So if you have a buyer and a buyer buying a house and the house and
Creative
sometimes
financing, Joe.
yeah,
Creative
well, I
financing.
hate to use the word creative finance because it has almost like a negative, message with it. But sometimes it's not a simple transaction where a house is worth X and buyers putting down this much money and their credit is good and they can verify their income, they qualify for the mortgage, and then you have a closing. I mean, there are just a zillion different ways that can be changed, and you're great at when one of those zillion ways comes up. You can say, all right, I think why don't we try this, and you work the numbers and plug them into your software and figure it out.
I think it's no different, and I still, I think the military had a lot to do with it as
Mhm.
a young 17-year-old that left the basing and went across, went to Korea and went to Texas.
Yeah.
I remember watching before 9/11 happened.
Mhm.
I worked on a project called Force 21.
Yeah.
And we would go into these, what they call talks, and they would have sand tables.
Mm-hmm.
And they would map out all the different options. And I think when it comes to a loan, you have to do this as well. Can
Yeah.
anybody, you said, hey, not every loan is step 1, 2, 3. Of course it is. But there's so many different paths along the way.
Right.
And the more you learn about that client, the more you understand that client
Mhm.
and what their needs are,
Right.
the better you're going to be able to pick that path.
Mm-hmm.
Some will listen, some won't.
Yeah.
There's a client today that's taking an interest rate that's a half a point higher than what he could take, but that's because he's able to get a credit for taking that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to get $5,000, and the difference in his payment is only $70 a month. So
Yeah.
that's 5.5 years
Yeah.
for him to keep the $5,000 in his pocket. Maybe that's not the best for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I find, again, when I say like the old school way,
Yeah.
now it's if you fit in the box, go. If
Yeah.
you fit in the box, go. Isn't there a better box? Maybe.
Right.
And when you're talking about investors, because
Mhm.
I deal a lot with the investors, and they have 8, 10, $15 million worth of properties,
Mm-hmm.
that little tiny miscalculation will
Yep.
send you off. It's like a rocket into space.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I think that's really important to learn about the situation, and I
Mhm.
appreciate you saying that I'm great at it. I
Yep.
love that. That's
Well,
the
and you have
solutions
a very strong reputation for being great at it. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
There's a lot of people out there that are live for me, I heard. But no, Joe, seriously, thank you
Yeah.
very much for saying that.
Yeah, no, and folks, we're here tonight. We talked about music and mortgages. We had our guest Rebecca Leuchak from the Rhode Island Civic Chorale and Orchestra on earlier, and that is a great organization, and they're actually going to be doing a performance 3:00 on December 8th at St. James Church in Manville, Rhode Island. And now we have Dan Giroux from Semper Home Loans. Okay, Dan does a great job. We're talking about working with investors, but he works with first-time home buyers, step-up buyers, downsizing buyers, the empty nesters. He has all different types of clients that he is very good at. And when you go to, a lot of times it's easy for some folks to just go to a big institution to apply for a mortgage because that's where they do their banking. But when you go to an institutional lender like that, they may only have 1, 2, 3, or 4 mortgage products that they can offer you, and if you don't fit in that box, they're not going to be able to finance your purchase of a home or an investment property. Whereas Dan, he has this like abundance of knowledge, but you have a lot of different mortgage products, I call them, that you can offer clients. Like maybe this one doesn't work, but wait a minute, I've got this one over here from this other company that I think we could get that to work for you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, correct. So we're a direct lender, so we can lend our own funds.
Yep.
Right? We're not a servicer. I think
Right.
that people get confused on that, and they don't understand it. So you're not going to send me a bill every month. No,
Right.
that's not what we're good at.
Yeah.
We're good at finding the product. So we can offer, Semper has their own money
Mm-hmm.
that we can lend on our conventional programs, FHA, VA, and
Mhm.
any of those programs. We can also what's called broker if we want to. Meaning if you come to me, I just had one recently. He's in Texas. He's buying a 200 unit development.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is not normal.
Right.
He has gone to the bank. The bank has given him 1 million items that they'd like him to get for them.
Mm-hmm.
He has supplied 1 million in 7 items, and they're
Right.
still not done with him.
Yeah.
And he called me from a friend, and I put him in a program that had a no income verification. We verified the down payment. I mean, this will be an easy deal for him.
Yep.
What's the sacrifice? His rate's a little bit higher than what the bank was offering him,
Mm-hmm.
but the bank's offering him 0 because they haven't closed yet.
Right.
So that's where we have every option.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little Instagram thing maybe a year ago
Mm-hmm.
where I said some of the myths
Right.
about these what they call non-QM, non-qualified
Mm-hmm.
mortgages, what they call them, and even that sounds bad, right? They used to call them subprime,
Subprime.
back in the
Yep.
day, right? But these aren't all bad.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people, business owners, right?
Yeah, a lot of times you get, real estate agents, they get all this money coming in, contractors, they're making all this money, and it's an unconventional way. You don't get a paycheck,
I submitted 3 today.
Yeah.
They're all realtors. They're all friends.
Yeah.
They all said, "What do we do? We've been in the business for 4 years. They have a 1099. 1099s are showing 100,000+, but after write-offs, their CPA is amazing.
Right.
It shows 38,000. They can't buy houses.
Mm-hmm.
I have a program that takes the 1-year 1099. We use 90% of it.
Yep.
They're done. That's their income.
Wow.
That's a great program.
Yeah, that is a great
and
program.
the interest rate compared to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, if they were a regular borrower with a
Mhm.
W-2, the interest rate was so close that you can't really see the difference.
Yeah.
That's the other part too, is that plan.
Mm-hmm.
One of them said, "Well, I show all this money." I said, "Yeah, you're right. And next year we should look at it and we should talk to your accountant and say, if you don't write off all these things, and you don't claim 36,000, you clear at 80, how much more will you pay in taxes? How will that let you get a different type of loan?
Yep.
Will you save more money than what you paid in taxes? And if you did, well, then don't take the write-offs this year."
Right.
And that's
And-
what we do.
Exactly. Now, folks, how many people out there are listening hadn't even thought about that you can, you need a down payment, but no income verification loan on an investment property.
There's one for owner-occupied too,
Mm-hmm.
but Joe, I don't really pitch it. It is backed by the Federal Reserve. It's for when you need it.
Right.
I tell a lot of divorce attorneys, I talk to them, and it's a great product for someone that just got divorced,
Mhm.
husband and wife. Maybe the wife or the husband doesn't make enough money on their own to refinance it.
Yep.
But the court order says you have to refinance it.
Mm-hmm.
And they know they're going to be getting child support and alimony at some point, but they don't have 6 months of it, so they can't use it.
Yep.
We can do a no income verification owner-occupied property for those
Oh.
people. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a great.
It's not available in Mass. You can do it in Rhode Island.
Yep.
Connecticut, you can only do it if the loan size is over 417,000. That's an
Which
old one.
shouldn't be a problem.
I've done a lot of these for people, but I make sure I reiterate to them,
Yeah.
hey, this is dangerous because you get into a 9.5%, 10% loan.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
Yeah.
People say, it's like hard money. Well, no, hard
No,
money
hard-
doesn't lend on owner-occupied.
Right. Exactly. And
Right.
it's even higher. Yeah.
But it is
Yeah.
based on the Federal Reserve. This is a program. It was a program that came out that was supposed to essentially help the self-employed
Mm-hmm.
that didn't know. They say they didn't know that if
Yeah.
you wrote everything off, you couldn't get a loan.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. They say, "Dan, I have $2 million in receivables."
Right.
Yeah, but after write-offs and everything else, you're showing $10,000.
Yeah.
Kudos to your CPA, but you're not
Right.
buying a house.
Right.
This
Exactly.
allows them to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, and hopefully you're paying attention and taking notes because you're learning from one of the best, Dan Giroux at Semper Home Loans. Lots of different options out there for you to buy properties that maybe you're self-employed, you're renting, you're paying $2,000-3,000 a month in rent, and you don't think you'll ever be able to buy a house because I'm self-employed, or I don't get a paycheck every week. I'm a plumber, I'm a contractor, an electrician, and I just get money here and there. Look, you can buy a house, okay? And Dan Giroux at Semper Home Loans has the product for you. Now, Dan, what's the best way for people to reach out to you to connect with you, either by phone, by
Phone.
social? Okay.
Yeah, phone is the best. I mean, the amount of text messages, phone calls,
Yep.
emails, Instagram, it's overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure, yeah.
I know I have 2 children, and
Yeah.
it gets overwhelming. But I do like a phone call,
Mm-hmm.
even a text. If
So-
somebody sends me a text, I'll respond back, and I tell people, let's figure out a time. I take calls from 9 to midnight also.
Yep.
Once my children are in bed,
Mm-hmm.
I get bored.
Yeah.
So, and people are amazed at that. They're like, I can call you at midnight? I said,
Yep.
sure, as long as you text me first and you have a
Right.
conversation
That's
that
key.
you want to have.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right? That
Yep.
shows some interest on their part, too. Anybody that talks to me at midnight, it means
Mhm.
they're ready to buy,
Yep.
and they just need me to guide them.
Yep. So, what's the number people should reach you at?
401-578-8929.
So 578-8929 in the 401 area code. to get in touch with Dan Giroux, Semper Home Loans. He's got a great team to help you out. And like he said, he put it out there on the air. You can call him up, just text him first.
If it's after 9 o'clock,
You can-
text me first so we don't wake up the kids. But I will.
Yep.
I will take your call up
Yeah,
midnight.
so he is dedicated to his clients, and it's kind of like, the next best thing. Back in the old days, maybe before our time, where the doctors made house calls, this is almost the same thing, where you have a loan officer, a mortgage lender, who will take your call at night.
You know what I found, Joe? Because really quick, because I
Yeah.
have the children.
Yep.
I thought one day, it kind of snapped, probably about 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wait a second. I got home. I picked up my daughter. We had soccer practice. My son had this. We run around. We get McDonald's or we do food. We get home, do your homework, clean up, get a bath. And I look and I go, my goodness, it's 8:30 already.
Yeah.
Anybody who had been trying to call me during that time was not going to get one-tenth of my attention.
Right.
If they did get me on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, wait a second. Don't other parents need this?
Yeah.
Don't other professionals need this? Maybe you get home at 10 o'clock at night. Right? How do you do your business when you're trying to make enough money to live?
Oh yeah.
All right, when you're trying to save, when you have children,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nothing special. It's just
Yeah.
hey, my kids go to bed and I'm willing. Now,
Right.
granted, if my daughter had a soccer game and I was at it at 9 o'clock,
Mhm.
I'm not taking your phone call.
Right.
Sorry, I'm at a
Right.
soccer game.
Yeah.
But besides that, I will.
Yeah, and if you're a single parent, or even when my wife and I, we had 2 kids that played soccer, and there were times when we were in 2 entirely different places, and you get home after soccer practice, and then maybe you could take the kids to grab a bite to eat or whatever it is. You get home, it's 9 o'clock. The kids have to take a shower, and you are just wiped out. So if that's you, and that's the only time you have to reach out to a mortgage lender just to ask a question like, hey, what do I need for a down payment to buy this type of a home? Or what kind of credit score do I need to qualify for a mortgage at your company? Dan will take your call. Send him a text, and he'll get back to you ASAP. That's Dan Giroux, 578 8929.
Yes.
That's 578-8929 in the 401 area code. And his company is called Semper Home Loans. Their local office is right in Providence on DuPont Drive. You can check them out. And he's got a great team. I'm actually having coffee with Liz on Thursday morning. She lives in Lincoln. I live in Cumberland, so we're going to get together for a coffee. Mike is, in Massachusetts, but he comes in. He's always available too. So he's got a great group of people over there. It's a very tight team, and why that's important is because one, they can communicate, and two, it's very unlikely that something is going to fall through the cracks. And I've had that happen, and I'm going to share something without mentioning names, folks. I had an experience with it was my listing. And a buyer came in with a pre-approval from a lender, and I didn't know this individual. I knew of this individual, but didn't know anything about the work history. And good grief, and of course this listing, it was family, and the guy was terrible about communicating, and it got to the point where literally after 60 days of nonsense, I told the buyer's agent, I said, look, you just have to get another lender. Otherwise, we're going to look for another buyer because this is ridiculous. I mean, it was just, because the buyers they had a job and they were self-employed, and he wasn't doing a good job asking them the right questions nor communicating that with me and the buyer's agent. And so we insisted that the buyers change lenders. They did, and I can't even remember who they used, but it got done. The big thing is communication. Communication is important. I call Dan, I text Dan, I send emails, I get responses. And sometimes I don't even have it's not about a deal that's in process, it's just something else. That is so important because, especially where we are in the business cycle right now, where there are lots of buyers and not a lot of sellers, you as a buyer need to make sure you have an experienced, knowledgeable realtor and an experienced and knowledgeable and good communicator in your mortgage lender. And that's why we're talking to Dan Giroux tonight from Semper Home Loans, because he's really good at that, and his team is very eager to please. I don't know how else to say it. And that's something that they're very well trained to do. And Dan's a numbers guy, so he tracked everything, you know.
Do I stare at the ceiling at night, Joe, if things aren't going right? So my team knows that.
Right.
And if something's not going right, when I walk in the morning, they know that Dan was staring at his ceiling all night long,
Yeah.
trying to fix the problem, and so they jump on it. And
Yeah.
it's again why I love the people that are working. I don't say that work for me; they work with me.
Yep.
You know, I'm an awful person to work for.
Right.
If you work with me, I'm an
Yeah.
amazing guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So.
Yeah. I like that. That's probably true about many of us. You know, I'm reading a book right now called The 4 Disciplines of Execution by, I think it's Sean Covey, and very interesting. And, you know, they talk about leading indicators and trailing indicators and how, you know, what we should track, and then, you know, scoreboards and things like that. I think it's a book that you would appreciate. Because it's really it's like an owner's manual or an instruction manual on building a team or a company to be successful, and things that you should focus on and things maybe you shouldn't focus on, and the importance of communicating, having weekly meetings, which I think you guys already do. Excuse me. So
This is also
anyway.
why we keep it so small too, Joe.
Yeah.
My team is very small because it allows me to have that life,
mm-hmm.
the children,
Yep.
the family, the friends,
Yeah.
the stuff that keeps you sane in this world,
Right.
and also have a clientele base that my whole team can give the white glove treatment to.
Yep.
We feel like family. They feel comfortable referring in people, but they're also the same people, like I joked before, except I'm at a soccer game.
Right.
My clients, when I say, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to be available till 7 because I have ballet tonight,"
Mm-hmm.
they're excited for me.
Yeah,
they're
that's
happy
so true.
for me.
I remember that. Yeah.
More of my clients wished my son a happy birthday via text to me than friends did yesterday.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah. No, that's great. So, folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI, 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. And you can also check us out on WNRI.com, where we are a streaming radio show. That's WNRI.com. And then the show gets uploaded to Spotify, so you can listen to all of our previous shows. I don't know if all 11 years are on Spotify, but several years anyway. And then we rebroadcast the show right here on WNRI every Saturday at 1 in the afternoon. So there are lots of opportunities to listen to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. And you can also search for us. It's I upload it on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and on LinkedIn for the video portion, because I stream the show. So sometimes you get stuck looking at my mug all day because I forgot to tell Dan and my previous guest that we were recording the show with video tonight, and so they say, "Oh, we're not dressed for it." So
I'm
they
a shy guy, Joe.
You know,
I'm a shy
yeah,
guy.
yep.
I like to sit behind the computer and figure out problems. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so just, you know, if you're watching this via video, you're stuck looking at me for the whole show. But yeah, so essentially we're providing information for current homeowners, but then also folks who want to step up and become a homeowner. You're a tenant right now, or you're living with family and you want to get out on your own and buy a home. It's a great time to buy a home. You just have to be patient and persistent in your efforts. And of course, the number one thing you need to do is find a good realtor. Now, of course, I would humbly submit myself. My name, Joe Luca, 401-409-5030. I would love to earn your business. And then you can get a great lender like Dan Giroux from Semper Home Loans, 401-578-8929. Is the number you can text him and then call him, or text him, ask for a call back, whatever. But he is very, very accessible, and he can direct you to, you know, what the next step is. If it's to fill out an application, if it's to have, you know, an interview, like where you meet face to face or meet on a virtual, you know, FaceTime or something like that. You know, Dan's very flexible and is willing to accommodate you, the consumer, so that he can help you buy a home. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you hit it right on, Joe. You know,
Okay.
the key is to make it as easy for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not only make it easy for them, but some clients will say, "Hey, Dan, can I come to your office and meet with you?" And
Right.
I say, "Of course you can."
Yep.
But I feel you'd be wasting your time. You're going to drive all the way here.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to come and sit down with me, and I'm going to ask you these questions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need you to give me the answers, which you
Mhm.
can do on an application.
Yep.
And then once I have those answers, I'll be able to start figuring out what we're going to do for you, and
Mhm.
I'll call you back in less than 24 hours.
Yep.
And they go, "Oh, I don't have to come there?" They actually prefer that
Yeah.
because it makes it easy. But you also don't want somebody just going on a click, click, click,
Mhm.
because you have to have the interaction. And
But it's important, because otherwise you're just I want to say a file, but you're just a, you know, a number on a computer screen. In the old days, you were a yellow manila file, but now you're just a number, file number on a computer screen.
I used to take, because we always have to collect an ID from our clients, so
Mhm.
this is back in 2002, maybe 2003.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take my client's ID, and I would blow it up, and I would put it on the front of each file.
Oh,
Everybody
okay.
always asked me why I did that. I said, because it made it personal. Because back
Yeah.
then, we would do 20, 30, 40 transactions in a month,
Yep.
and you forget. But
Yeah.
it was always look at that picture. When you
That's
start
a good
getting
idea.
stressed, when you start getting too like, oh, just send an email, just do this, oh, ignore that call. No, you can't ignore a call when
Mhm.
you look at somebody eye to eye.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me this whole time. So.
That's that. Yeah. So folks, these are the things that make it different when you're working with a local lender. I've been saying this for 11 years. Local lenders, there are these national companies. They advertise on ESPN and all these other during sports games and whatnot, and they spend a lot of money on advertising. If they're spending a lot of money on advertising, they have to make that money somewhere, and it's probably in how they're handling your loans. And the thing is, you're just a phone number to them, not even a record number, because they don't. I've got to call this person. I have to send an email. Whereas when you're working with a local lender, they know that they're in your backyard. They're working hard to earn your business, keep your business, and why I tell everybody, listen, you have to use a local lender, because if I like it so that if someone is not answering my emails or taking my calls, I can go knock on their office door because they're local. And that's important. So that reminds me, I was telling you a story earlier and I sidetracked myself. So I have a colleague of mine who has a buyer who is interested in putting an offer in on one of my listings, and this buyer has that same lender, a pre-approval from that same lender that I spoke of earlier, who almost killed a deal on one of my listings a couple of years ago. And so my colleague, the agent on the other side, he was like, Joe, do you know this person? You ever worked with him? And I said, oh, good grief. I said, I have. I said, I don't really have anything good to say because communication was horrible. And that was all I had to say. And he's like, okay, that's kind of what I thought too. So he redirected his buyer to another lender that's much more responsive. And it is a local lender, and it's someone, excuse me, who's here in Rhode Island, okay? And this is why it's important, because, there are certain lenders, basically everybody that I have on this show, we have Dan tonight, I know if I say, okay, call Dan, he's going to take care of you, I don't have anything to worry about. As long as my client calls Dan, we're good to go, because Dan and his team will handle it from there. And when I get people to come in, I had someone that came in with a pre-approval from one of those national companies today, and I'm not happy about it, but it's not my client, it's my listing, so I don't have any control over it. So I just have to, grin and bear it and hope and pray that everything goes right. Exactly, Dan. Yeah, pray that everything goes right. Because one of the things that we try to do, myself and some of my other colleagues, is we have this form. It's called a lender questionnaire that we'll send out to make sure the lender is doing a good job and they're not just saying, "How much do you make, Mr. Buyer? Okay, how much do you need to buy the house? What's your credit?" And they're basically providing a pre-approval based on what the buyer is telling them. That could be a bunch of nonsense. If I don't question that, and then my seller signs the purchase contract, then it goes into underwriting at that company. Oh, and then everything blows up. Well, what just happened? We wasted my seller's time, took his or her property off the market. Who knows what can happen in the interim? The market could crash. We could have a global world war. I just saw something online about that that's not really impacting the bond market. The headline was "Threat of a Global Nuclear War Barely Worth a Bond Rally." But something like that would could definitely impact home sales and mortgage interest rates. So we don't like to waste time, and we like things to move along as smoothly as possible for the benefit of my sellers and the buyers. Okay. Have you, Dan, had any situations where somebody delayed and then something fell apart? Or, I've had situations where people wait and then, it gets put off and,
Well, you see it on both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, think about COVID time.
oh yeah,
Right, COVID, you went from interest rates that were in the 5s
yep,
to spiking up to the 7s
mm-hmm,
to closings, and I mean, we all fell victim to it. There's clients that we said, hey, we have to lock because you're closing at this time. You lock them in at 7, and 2 days later, rates were at 3.
right,
Again, no crystal ball, but we have certainly seen it. I've seen ones where same thing on the seller side.
mm-hmm,
A buyer gets in there. This goes back to like the title attorneys that you talked about.
Yep.
Using the trusted title company that you have.
mm-hmm,
Using a good one will ensure that you don't run into this problem.
right,
Client today, they could not clear title, right? This title company couldn't clear it. The seller had some problems.
Yeah.
Some who we know, right? We won't mention names,
right,
are really, really good at it.
yeah,
And they will get it done. They will find a way. Others go, that's not my job.
Right.
We get that. Well, this affected the buyer.
mm-hmm,
And the buyer had to have an extension on a Rhode Island housing loan.
oh my gosh,
And it cost $3,000 to extend that. Now, I'm a gentleman.
Yeah.
So I asked my company, can we give him a small credit towards it? But there's still this fee that came in
Yeah.
because he was delayed
mm-hmm,
by a seller.
yeah,
Or sellers because they're delayed by a buyer.
mm-hmm,
How many times have you seen other people lose out on a house?
oh yeah,
Because, hey, I'm selling my house to buy a new house, but the buyer who's supposed to be buying my house, on the 30th day, we just found out that he doesn't have a job.
oh,
But
yeah,
did anybody check that?
right,
The questionnaire that you mentioned, by the way, Joe, that used to drive me crazy when
Mhm.
people would send it to me, because I read the questionnaire, and I'm like, why are they asking me this?
Right.
Of course I did this.
Yeah.
Of course this was done. I never really put 2 and 2 together that there are people out there that they don't ask anything, Joe.
no.
They just, they're
And some
puppy
of
mills.
right, and some of the biggest, some of the people that create the biggest problems are these institutional lenders, these big banks. If they're local banks, or national, mortgage companies, they're horrible about
They're
that
filling
stuff.
seats with pencil pushers.
Yeah,
And it's even the licensing part. If you work
Yeah.
for a bank,
Mhm.
you can write loans. If you don't work for a bank, you're federally chartered, right? You don't
Right.
have a license.
yep,
It falls under their licenses.
mm-hmm,
So you can be a teller on Tuesday,
yep.
and they can decide to make you a loan officer on Wednesday.
Oh my
That's
goodness,
not
yeah,
really. I mean, to me,
right,
you imagine walking into the doctor's office, right? You go and have open heart surgery.
right,
And walks out, how many surgeries have you done? Well, none. Just the
Yeah.
surgeon wasn't available today, but I work at the hospital, so I
Yep.
can do yours.
exactly.
So.
Yep. Folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 AM, and we're streaming on WNRI.com. You can also catch us Saturdays at 1 o'clock. We rebroadcast the show. We're speaking with Dan Giroux from Semper Home Loans. We're actually at the end of the show already. I want to thank Dan for coming in and sharing his knowledge and his expertise and insights for you, our listeners. And we will be back next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel, right here on WNRI. And Dan, if you need to reach him, 401-578-8929. Send him a text, give him a call. He will hook you up. Dan, thank you very much for coming into the show.
Thank you, Joe. I had such an amazing time.
Awesome,
Thank you.
great. Okay, guys, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Clear? That was awesome.
Yeah, that went
was
well.
awesome.
Hey, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Oh, sorry.